Hey, board gamers, BJ from Game Gumbo here, back with another episode of Gumbo Live. It's episode number 101. Gumbo Live, the number one-ish Facebook Live talk show dedicated to board gaming. Our special guest tonight, Dustin from Sideroom Games. We're going to be talking about some spicy hot games we both played recently and some news about his Kickstarter. Board Game Gumbo, a proud member of Punchboard Media. Check out some of our other fine members like Geekcraft, a blog written by Ken Grazer. Not only does Ken review games and evangelizes games, but they also produce geeky items for your board gaming needs, like dice bags, etc. Plus, right now, they're producing geek-themed masks for the COVID-19 crisis. That's Geekcraft, a member of Punchboard Media, where we all bring something to the table. Hey, hit us up on social media tonight, on Twitter or on Facebook, at Board Game Gumbo, and we'll be looking for your questions in the chat crew. But enough blather, let's get right to our special guest. Hey, Dustin from Sideroom Games. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, how's it going, BJ?
It's going awesome. Dustin, first off, you're an Albuquerque guy, is that right?
That's correct.
Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hey, just in case people haven't heard of you or seen Sideroom Games before, give us the elevator pitch. What is Sideroom Games?
Sure, yeah. So we were a company, we started back at the end of 2017, beginning of 2018. Started off where we saw a lot of these amazing print and play games that are on Board Game Geek and the different design contests they have, whether they're solo games or war games, small card games, and started playing them like, man, these games are amazing. I don't understand why these haven't been published. And so when we first started off, we really wanted to find some of those hidden gems and get them to a broader audience, because while they might get a couple hundred plays out of the print and play community, we've been able to have a couple different Kickstarters go to thousands of copies that we've had out, and even had our one of our last Kickstarters back in January was for our first game, a reprint and an expansion. So it's been going really well, and we've been able to find some cool projects, put them together, and we have a couple more coming down the road, and just to keep going.
Yep, we're going to be talking about some of those projects tonight. An Albuquerque guy, I'm assuming that you hang out every night with my buddies Alex and Sean from the Dukes of Dice, right?
That is incorrect. Not only do I not hang out with them, I didn't know about that until just a little bit earlier today. I did not realize that there was a podcast about board games stationed out of Albuquerque. So now I feel pretty stupid. So I actually hit him up on Facebook to talk to him, like, hey, I didn't know you guys existed, so we should chat.
Yeah, listen, Alex lives in St. Louis now, but Sean's still there. He's got a big play group that meets on Wednesday nights right there at Empire Game Library. So make sure you guys hook up. Hopefully I've got something going where I can get you guys together.
I hope so. That'd be great. Yeah.
The Albuquerque gaming scene is pretty good as far as I can tell. One of the things, and doing a little bit of show prep, Dustin, one of the things that I thought was cool is that, at least back when I heard you with talking with Richard with We're Not Wizards, and I want to see if you still do that. You guys did a lot of lunchtime gaming back then with the people that kind of started Sideroom Games. Is that right?
Oh yeah, yeah. We still, well, obviously since the lockdown, it hasn't been as easy, but we usually try to get together quite a bit. For a while, 3 of the 4 of us of the company were working on the Air Force Base in Albuquerque. Okay. And now there's only 2 of us, and so it's a little bit harder to get together, but we usually can. We had a big Gloomhaven campaign we were going through. We were probably about halfway through the base campaign, but then sort of once the lockdown happened, we kind of had to put it on pause. But hopefully here in the next few months, if things start getting back to normal, we can get it back up again.
A lot of the people that watch the show are from the Gateway and Filler Games group, and that is something that we talk about on that Facebook group. If you haven't seen it, Chuck Yeager runs a fantastic group of people interested in those 1-hour wonders, the gateway games, the games that you can play at the start or the end of the game night, or like Steve always calls it, the name father calls it, the tapas games. Those little bite-sized games that you can play. And if you play 3 or 4 of them back-to-back, you got a nice meal, right?
Yeah, so for sure, yeah.
What are those games that you guys, Gloomhaven's not really a tapas game. Are there any games that you guys have played that you found works well in a lunchtime setting?
Yeah, I'm trying to think what we've been playing a few times. We played Splendor a handful of times. That's one of my wife's favorite, and so we've played that a handful of times during like lunch hours. We actually have done a lot of our solo games, and so like we'll do a lot of the testing for games we get in as submissions or games that we're having running our contest. And so we usually that's a good time to get 3 or 4 of those, knock them out, play them, and see what we think about them.
That kind of reminds me, you found a lot of your games with what you call 54 card challenge, right?
Yep.
I've seen that challenge on BGG, and I hadn't looked at it in a while. And when I looked at the latest challenge and the long list of games that you get every year, you need a bunch of lunchtimes just to get through some of those games, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think this year we're getting close to, if not at 30 entries for this year, and it's about to wrap up.
Right,
the entry
April 30th, right?
Yeah, April 30th is the entry deadline, and then basically after that, we've actually started a new thing this year where there's a play test of about a month and a half where the designers from entries have to go in and actually test other people's games, give them feedback to help improve, refine rules, refine the gameplay, to kind of make all the other games a little bit better, get more experience, to be able to provide feedback to people. Also, while we're doing our testing in all the games too.
I thought that was a cool twist. You want to enter the competition, you can submit your game, but you have to help. Not judge. Is it judging that they're doing, or really just?
It's more just help. It really is. It's just. There's been a lot of. We put two different pieces in. One is to play it during this phase that starts in May, but then we also said, hey, give some feedback, read rules, take a look at the cards that they're put together, see if you have any feedback. And I'm actually pretty impressed. Like, a lot of people have done a lot of hard work checking out people's games, giving them feedback, and usually, in the first couple contests we had, you might have a game where, you might only have like one or two people take a look at it. But this time it seems like almost every game is getting some really good feedback in this early stage, and we're hoping that'll continue on to the second stage, just to kind of help improve every game that's entered. And we actually had one of the games from the first year in 2018 actually got signed by a publisher, not us, somebody else picked it up. I'm not sure if it's actually gone to print yet or not. And then the runner-up from our prize from last year's game is actually on Kickstarter right now. It's called Regicide. It's a really good game. I was hoping I could sign it, but the guys, they wanted to self-publish, and so I was like, all right, well, we'll still support you. So we helped plug the Kickstarter, and we got our copies coming. So it's actually been real successful. Just funded a few days ago, I think. So that one's pretty cool.
You started a contest, and some of these games you're not actually signing, but I bet the whole intent was to find games that you could publish,
that's the thing.
Right?
And that was the goal, yeah. But we also, just to be able to for new designers to kind of learn the ropes, start small with 54 cards is pretty simple. You can for testing, it's super easy. All you have to do is print the cards out, front and back of 6 pages, and give it a go. And then that way, you get a lot of feedback, you get a lot of experience designing, and you can take some of those designs beyond just cards and say, okay, well, I like the way I did it with the cards, but if I had a couple tokens, it would really make the game flow better and just make a better game, and eventually hopefully get some of those signed either by us or somebody else.
Well, I've seen people like James and Daniel and of course, Jamie Stegmeyer talk about how if you're going to kickstart a game and you've never published a game and you've never designed a game before, start with a 54 or 50 card deck game, right? Easy to play test, and you're not killing yourself if the thing doesn't go through, right? You haven't haven't got all this plastic and wood and bits and everything else. Have you found that to be part of the success for you?
For sure, yeah. I mean, we started pretty small. I mean, our first game was Black Sonata, and while it has a couple, interesting things about it, and basically it's a board that's the size of a sheet of paper. It's a handful of cards. It's a couple tokens, but it's a small box. It was simple to get set up and developed and printed, and we were able to kind of leverage that success. The next game was Maquis, very exact same footprint as far as the board and the box size goes. And then Orchard was our one of our latest as well, and that one went really well too. That one's literally just 18 cards and 15 dice and 2 tokens.
Yeah, BJ from Game Gumbo. I've got my guest here, Dustin from Sideroom Games. I didn't even realize we had this connection. Last year, we got sent this review copy of a game, and it was from Envoy, a company that we do a lot of stuff for. And it turns out to be your game. We did the unboxing part. We did Bradley went through the whole game, talked about the gameplay, talked about how good the solitaire worker placement aspect is for it, and it's right there on BGG. When I was doing some research and getting ready for the show, I'm like, wait a minute, we did a video for one of his games. I didn't realize that. So tell me about Maquis. How did you discover it? Was that also part of the contest?
No, this one, Maquis has been around as a print and play game since like 2013, I think.
Okay.
And so Jake Staines, the designer, he actually did his original version with his art and his graphic design. And then Ilya Baranovsky, I think is how you pronounce his last name. Okay. He's actually done a lot of different graphic design art for games. He did the reprint that Gale Force 9 did for Dune. That's all his graphic design and art. But as a whim, just for fun, he actually redid Maquis. And so when we found it, it was one of those, again, print and plays. I don't understand why somebody didn't print this already and publish it. And so we approached Jake, and we finally convinced him to sign it. And so when we printed it, we had Ilya do some new art, some graphic design for it. We added some new cards to it. And then that one was super successful. I think that was probably the most backed Kickstarter we've had so far.
Maquis. So I have not been able to get it back because one of the guys that owns it, actually, I think it's Carlos that actually. Did you kickstart that one? Is that what it was?
Yes.
Yeah. I think actually, Carlos got a copy. He actually bought a copy.
Yeah.
So I forgot it wasn't one from Envoy. It was one that Carlos had actually bought. So he's a big fan of the company. That's actually how I discovered you with Black Sonata. So we're gonna talk about that in a little while. BJ from More Game Gumbo. I've got my guest here, Dustin from Sideroom Games. I want to talk about one of the games you played recently that I got to play and see if our thoughts match up on it. Tell me about your first play of you said you played Dice Forge recently?
Yeah. Actually, my friend owns it, and then we were sitting at lunch. I think it was like a Friday, during the lockdown. And he's like, "Hey, let's get on Board Game Arena and play something." And so we set up a game of Dice Forge, and it was fun. I enjoyed it. I had never heard of it really. I think I'd maybe seen a couple like pictures of the boards and stuff, but the implementation on Board Game Arena was really good, and it was fun. It was nice to kind of have that mix of luck, but also sort of strategic thinking about how you're going to try to plan for the event cards or the action cards down the road. And so it was fun. I liked it.
It came on my radar back in 2017 where I was at Dice Hurricane. I was teaching viticulture, and my son Jack was not in the game, but someone invited him to play Dice Forge, and I kind of peripherally heard about it, sort of like you, where I didn't know a lot about it. I knew that it was the game that popped the dice faces. That's all I knew about it. I didn't know what kind of game it was. After the game, he comes back and says, "Dad, really cool game. You need to try it." Never thought about it again. Some of the guys in the Gumbo crew do play it, but Sagan brought a copy to our game night a couple of months ago, and I finally got to play it. And I'll tell you, it's an engine building game, basically, right? It's a dice building game, and that concept is really cool. The dice were a little bit fiddly, but I love the idea of constantly manipulating the odds. It felt like you had more control of the mitigation of the luck in the game. Did you get that same feeling as you were playing it?
Yeah, for sure. It was nice because I was, and it was only playing it the one time. I felt like there's a lot of different ways you could build a strategy as far as how to build the engine. I was kind of building it more to get the victory points like immediately. Okay. And Alan was kind of playing to get some of the resources to go for some of the bigger cards later. So it was just really neat, a cool mechanic of how to manipulate and change the dice as the game flows, and getting actual hands on a physical copy pretty cool to have the tactile feel of switching those dice.
How is the implementation on Board Game Arena? Steve and I play a lot of Board Game Arena games. In fact, we're playing a game right now. Shoot, I forgot now what it was, but we're playing Keyflower right now.
Okay. Yeah.
How is the implementation of the dice? You're missing out on the flicking of the dice faces, of course. What do you get instead? How do they implement?
So I think the way it works is you basically have each of the faces are in like the different areas, and then you basically kind of drag and replace the new face with the old face, and the old face comes off. And so at all times you kind of see what the 6 faces of your dice are, and so then every time you roll it, you're kind of seeing what the results are, and then you kind of change them as you go from there.
Okay, so you're still seeing, I don't want to say the odds, but it is sort of the odds, what's coming in and what's coming out. You're still seeing it as
it actually might be easier to do the math in your head if you're looking at all 6 faces at the same time.
I could believe that. And that is Dice Forge, something you got to play and you'd like to play in person, right?
I actually haven't played it yet with Alan in person. He has a copy. He's of the group. He is the biggest junkie. He has a full game room at his house where he has multiple shelves, multiple walls full of games, and he has that one. But I have not played the physical copy yet. But I want to give it a shot again now that I've played the electronic one.
Good choice. BJ from More Game Gumbo. I've got my guest here, Dustin from Sideroom Games. How about a spicy game that I got to play recently, if you don't mind talking about it? Have you heard of Santa Monica from AEG?
I have not.
So my wife likes games, not as much as I do, but she does like playing games. And the trick for me is to find a game that she likes. She's a teacher, so afternoons are hectic for her, and if I can find a game that my buddy Chris Kirkman calls a 1 hour wonder, that's the kind she's looking for. Something that with teach, setup, and breakdown is all about an hour, right? 30 minutes, play 35 minutes. So games like Reef, games like, Ticket to Ride, any of those games that you can play in a short time, she's going to like those. So I put out Santa Monica because when AEG sent me the game, I was intrigued by the artwork. As you can see, it's got kind of this, it's got these chill California, colors, I guess is what you'd say. And then it's got these cool pieces. But it says it plays pretty quickly. And I found out that's exactly what it does. The premise of the game is simple. You've got the sidewalk. If you've ever been to Santa Monica, California, or any of those beach towns, Laguna Beach or Huntington Beach, any of those towns, they've got these beautiful sidewalks, boardwalks, and they got the beach behind it. So what your goal is to set up cards behind the sidewalk, where the beach and the sidewalk extends out, and you only have 14 cards to play. And you're going to look for those cards that match up. It's sort of like that little set collection, but where the sets actually interact with each other. So one card might say, hey, the more volleyball courts that you can have lined up, you're going to score more points. And then the twist is that you also have 2 or 3 different kinds of visitors that you need to get to go visit those malls and volleyball courts and sand beach areas. So in your mind, you're trying to not only buy the right cards, but get the right people, and then use the economy to double and triple your actions, all in the space of about 45 minutes. I was really impressed with the way the game plays, and I got to admit, I just love this little chill art that it's got on there, Nice pastel colors, nice friendly beach. The sand dollars are the money, and the sand dollars are kind of cute. They look like little wooden sand dollars. So I got to admit, AEG, they've been on a roll lately, and I really like this one, Santa Monica, a nice, chill, 1 hour wonder that I think is going to do wonders. What do you think?
I might have checked it out. My wife, that's kind of like the same type of games my wife likes, and so I might try to see if I can find that one. Her current favorite is Splendor, but she hasn't been playing as much recently. She's just been busy, so maybe I'll have to see if I can find something else that might scratch an itch for her.
That might be the one, huh? BJ from Game Gumbo, got my guest here, Dustin from Sideroom Games. You have a couple of games that I've actually got to play, and one of those, the reason that I discovered you on the radar was Black Sonata. Black Sonata was a game that Carlos kept telling me, BJ, you got to play this game. It's diabolical, it's wicked, but more importantly, you're never going to figure out how this guy, John Keane, I think his name is, right? Keane?
Yep.
How John Keane could come up with this game system. And I'm going, the box is this big. How could a game system be that important to such a little box? Tell me how you found Black Sonata, and I'm going to try to get a picture of it for us.
Yeah, sure. So this was about the same time we started the company, and I was just looking at different print and play games and found Black Sonata, and it was right about the time where I think it was right after the 2017 solo game design contest on Board Game Geek had ended,
Sure.
And it won all the prizes. It won overall game, and all graphic design, artwork. It was just won everything, and I'm like, well, okay, let's see what this is like. So I printed it out, and I remember I printed it out and played it at lunch at work one day. And I'm playing it, and I'm just sitting there. My smile just keeps growing. I'm like, this is insane. Like, I don't understand how this works. I don't understand how the deduction works. I don't understand how the hidden movement in a solo game works. Like, I don't understand it. This is witchcraft. And I played it. I'm like, I really want to publish this game. And so I contacted John, and he said that it actually some publisher in Europe was looking at it. And he's like, well, I haven't heard from him in a while. So if I don't hear from him pretty soon, we'll roll with you. And I kept pinging him every week. You hear anything? You hear anything? And he's finally like, you know what? I'm tired of waiting. Let's work with you and let's make it happen. And the rest is history. Like I said, it's an amazing game. It boggles my mind how he designed it, and the combination of all the different mechanics and the keyhole cards and the way that works. It's so unique, and I'm so happy we were able to make it happen.
Yeah. So I've got a solo picture up there. And the unique thing that Carlos was just bugging me about were those little circles, those little dots that give you a see-through. So there may be a lot of people that have heard of it, but give an overview real quick. What's the elevator pitch of this game?
So the elevator pitch of the game, it is a solo hidden movement and deduction game. And in the game, you are trying to figure out who the Dark Lady from Shakespeare's from his Dark Lady sonnets. You're trying to figure out who the Dark Lady is. And so you are moving around the map of London, And in each turn, you're trying to investigate and see if you can catch up to her. And every time you catch up to her, the way you do that, the mechanic is that you take, like at the bottom of the picture you take the card of the location you're at, and you line up that card with the stealth deck, which is also the same size of card, and you basically line them up and flip them over. And if you guess correctly, you'll see a little silhouette of the Dark Lady in the keyhole. And if you guess wrong, you won't see anything. And so every time you make a correct guess, you're able to figure out who she isn't. And so there are 12 different ladies in the deck, and you start off with one that you're trying to hunt, and every time you get a new one, you get more clues as to what her identity is. And if you can eventually figure out what her key attributes are, on the left-hand side of the Dark Lady cards, you can see the different attributes, whether it's she was married, or she had romantic ties to Shakespeare, or she had a child, all different kinds of traits. Once you figure that out, if you can catch up to her one last time before the stealth deck runs out, and you can confront her, and if you confront her successfully, you can win the game.
Then that was that unique puzzle that I did need a little help from Carlos. Deduction games, puzzle games, not really my strength. I'll give him that. But even with just the little hints that he would give me, a little help, I was able to work through the game. But the challenge of chasing after, and looking for those moves and trying to find it, I just thought it was incredible. So I don't know what's going on with the chat. We're having some storms out here in Louisiana, so we're having a little bit of trouble with the interface. I'm not seeing the chat. I don't know if you're seeing the chat. I was hoping to get some questions from the chat from the thing, and they're actually posting stuff like Thomas just said, "Hey, the artwork is absolutely fantastic in Black Sonata." So I'm sorry you're not seeing the chat here.
That's all right.
There's our buddy Mick Fitch who says, "Man, Black Sonata sounds interesting." So I'm just going to have to kind of read them to you for. Sorry, we're not getting the chat crew tonight. But Black Sonata, just a fantastic puzzle. It plays solo, but you could play with a team. It'd be a great husband and wife game, right?
It is actually, yeah. We had Rado took a look at it before the Kickstarter. He looked at the prototype, and he actually mentioned that his favorite way to play it was with his wife, and they would just kind of work through it together as they would, try to do the deduction and try to figure out where she was at.
I see on BGG that John's been working on some expansion content.
Yes, yeah. So we had a Kickstarter for the first expansion in January, and it did really well. And so that one adds, I think, 6 different variants. So it adds a couple different new deductions you can do. It adds a couple tools to either make the game a little trickier or a little easier, depending on kind of how you like it. And then it also adds some new Dark Lady cards if you want to mix it up. It's a little bit harder deduction than the base game, but it kind of adds some variety if you think you're maybe getting too used to the ones you're seeing, to be able to kind of mix it up and keep it fresh. And then he has another expansion, a couple pieces that he's working on that we'll probably look at maybe next year. We'll have to kind of see how it goes. Yeah. Another
expansion?
Yep, another small one. Like I said, the expansion for this one was like a small tuck box size with a couple cards and some tokens. This one will probably have a brand new stealth deck, so to kind of freshen it up there, and then a couple new mechanics that he's working on.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the puzzle of the game gets reset every time you play. So you could actually play this game over and over again without any more expansions.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think every time you play, it's a new Dark Lady card, and then also when you set up the deck, you're setting up you can set up a different sequence every time. I think if I remember correctly, the number is somewhere around 50 total paths that are in the box between the rules and the way the cards are built. And then every time you start a path, you start it in a random position at the beginning of the game, so it helps kind of add some more replayability, so that you're not trying to remember or memorize things. So yeah, it works really well. I have not heard of anybody. Everybody during the Kickstarter is like, "Well, can you just remember the Dark Lady cards?" And I'm like, I have not met anybody who can do that. But if you can, hopefully at least get your $20 or $25 out of it. So
good luck with that. Steve makes the point. It's an achievement of game design because as you're playing it, you think this can't work. It's not really going to work this way, and then it does.
Yeah. It still boggles my mind to this day. And he used some of those deduction pieces in the game we just finished on Kickstarter, Fallen Angels. And the way he designs games it's impressive.
I'm curious how Steve has got a good question in the chat. How can he expand such a delicately balanced game without breaking it? What is he doing all this by himself? Does he have a playtest group that he relies on? How does this work?
So he does it all by himself, and we have all the print and play files are out there on Board Game Geek. So all of our games the print and play files are usually out there even before the game launches. And so he gets some feedback here and there, and there was a lot of feedback during the contest that really got it to where it's at. But like for example, one of the expansion pieces adds a new card, and if I probably couldn't pull up a picture, but on the face of the card, it has some different numbers. And as you do the keyhole mechanic where you do a search, you can do a search, look at that card, and each keyhole will tell you how many spaces away the guy you're looking for is. And I just don't understand. I don't get it. I'm just like, hey man, if it works, it works, and it works. It's wild.
Thomas wants to know, are you having any significant production challenges with the pandemic in creating this new content?
Not yet. We had right around February, it was just a little bit tricky to kind of have communication. So, you know, we would have, you know, emails back and forth, and they, you know, both of our two current manufacturers we've used, Bangwee and Gameland, they're super great people to work with, and they were saying, hey, you know, it's going to be a little rough in the next couple of weeks, so just bear with us. And but luckily we weren't in the middle of production. We were kind of in between projects and then doing some fulfillment, which was a little tricky, and we're still having a few issues that we're trying to get nailed down on the orchard fulfillment. But in general, it hasn't been too bad so far. So we're going to start production on the expansion and the reprint probably the first or second week of May. So we'll see how it goes from there.
Well, that follows up with what Mick wants to know. Mick wants to know, is there a way to get this in retail at all?
So for Black Sonata and the expansion, we have we're still taking late pledges. So on Game Found, yep, you can find it there. And so we still taking orders there, and then we'll probably sometime, I'm guessing in the June timeframe, we'll probably lock down the pledge manager, but then we'll have extra copies on our site. We're also working with a couple new publishing partners in different countries. So some different languages. We have so far, I think, Spanish, Chinese, and Italian versions that are going to come out, and we're working on some other ones too. So,
well, Steve,
so those will be options for people as well.
Steve just posted a link to your store on the chat, okay. So the chat crew can see, you know, the link to get to your games. But if they want to jump in on a late pledge with the Black Sonata and its expansion, it's I forgot the name of it. I'm sorry.
The Fair Youth.
The Fair Youth. They can jump on Game Found and find a copy if they want to. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's got a link to it right now on Game Found, the Fair Youth by Sideroom Games. So chat crew, you can check it out right there. Mick, if you and Starla are looking for a copy, you can check it out right there. BJ from Game Gumbo, I've got my guest here, Dustin from Sideroom Games. We've been talking about some of his spicy games that he's come out, print and play games that he found, and one of those is one that you were kind enough to send to the Gumbo for us to check out, Fallen Angels. Now, the timing did not exactly quite work out. We did get a video out. We did get the video for on the Dice Tower. We didn't the show, because of everything going on, we're a day late, but we're not $1 short, and you're going to explain why. Isn't that right?
Yeah. But yeah, no, yeah, we just finished up on Sunday and had almost 1,000 backers on that one. That it was our first contest winner from our very first 54 card contest we did back in 2018. And we finally got it to publish this year. It's amazing. It's another one by John Keane. It's all about deduction. So if you like logical deduction, you'll love it. It's a cooperative game where you're trying to collect evidence to put away these criminals from back in the 1920s era of Australia. And so each of those pictures and art is authentic shots that were taken from that era that have been cleaned up by John and put onto the cards.
These are scary people. Look at these people, Dustin.
Some of them are very interesting, and he has a little background booklet that he put together that we're putting in the game as well that has some information on some of the key players that are part of the game. So it's just a really cool theme, a really cool mechanic. It plays very similar to like Hanabi, where you hold your cards in a certain way and you can see the symbols on your side, but your partners are seeing the symbols on the other side. And so each time you do a deduction, your partners are setting up their cards so that some symbols are on that they see match and some don't. And so you basically have to decipher from what they see and you think they see to what you see, and how that compares to what you don't see on the side of the card that you're trying to guess. It's just, again, I don't understand how it works. I don't understand how he does these designs, but it's just really clever and it's fun, and it like just burns your brain in the right way. And when we played it the first time, like we're just like, I don't understand how this is not like the winner. Like it was perfect.
So I remember calling Carlos and Bradley, and I'm telling the game. Actually, I want to say it was Carlos that got me to reach out to you, or you posted something on that Facebook group. I can't remember now, but I played Black Sonata before. Was that it?
Yeah.
I played Black Sonata before, and then you had this game come out. When it came to the house, I remember thinking to myself, I'm reading the rules, I'm going, this can't work. I don't even understand how this would work. And I've got a solo shot of me and Carlos playing. I'm looking at my cards on one side, and I'm looking at his cards, and that's the suspect, if I remember right. That's the suspect that we're trying to narrow down. And of course, Bradley and I have two totally different sets of cards. I can't see what's behind his cards. I can only see what's in front of everybody. And you're trying to put all these symbols together. And my brain would melt. My brain was melting playing the game. I think I told you that night, we didn't play it once. We didn't play it twice. We played it 3 times back to back to back. So if our brains are melting playing it, how is John doing this?
I don't get it. And he whatever system he uses, he actually did the math on it to figure out the best way to set up multiplayer.
Oh, really?
It's the same. Yeah, he did a ton of like simulations, I think, where he basically tried to figure out what is the right card count and setup for like 2 players versus 6 players, so it's all kind of on the same level. And yeah, it's wild. Like I don't understand it, but it's pretty good.
Okay, I got a bone to pick with you though. Now we played the game. You asked me for a quote. We had played the game 3 times back to back to back, so still fresh in my mind. And I said Hanabi on steroids with absolutely diabolical deduction puzzles in every hand. That's pretty accurate, right?
Yes, that is exactly how I would describe that game.
you and I have something in common. We're both fans of the Secret Cabal. And Steve puts a quote, and his quote is, "Fallen Angel's a great card game, deduction game that fits in your pocket. The pictures are from actual criminals in the 20s as well, so it really helps build the theme." Yeah, except last week he tells us on the show he never actually played it when he posted the quote. I got a bone to pick with you. I played the game.
It's hilarious. We have had Steve blurbs for every one of our Kickstarters, and my goal is to continue to do that. And I think this one, just because of the timing and the pandemic, I sent him the copy, and I was like, hey, even if it's just something random, give me a blurb. And he's like, all right, I can do that. So
Steve, I enjoyed, I don't know when you posted this, but I enjoyed your post pretty recently. You said something like, even if I have to make up a quote from Steve, we're going to have a Steve Spain quote.
Exactly. We have to have a Steve quote.
Yep. Name Father, I knew right away. I said, I'm going to have fun with Dustin on the show. He's got my sense of humor. I like that. He's got my kind of sense of humor. So, no, they hadn't got to play it. It's not his fault. It came to them when they were, the middle of the COVID-19 crisis. They couldn't. We got ours early enough to where it was actually a couple of weeks before the whole thing fell apart, with our last, probably the third to last game that we had. So, luckily, I was able to get enough plays in there, get a nice video out there, and I was super glad this thing funded easily. You guys, that has got to be one of the big worries for you as a Kickstarter.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and this one was interesting because it's the first game we've had that's not a solo game. It is you have to have, like, John tried and racked his brain but couldn't find a solo variant he liked, and so we're like, okay, well, we're just going to roll with it, as a multiplayer game, and we built up this big solo audience. But luckily, the people who support the company and I've liked what we've done so far. That they hopped on and then they spread the word, and so we were pretty successful. I was thinking we'd have around 1,000 backers or so, and that's what we got. And I'm sure we'll have some late pledges too. So I was very happy.
Steve posted a link to the Kickstarter in there again. If you and I were talking off air, if people want to get this game, it's not too late. Even though the Kickstarter ended yesterday, they still have a chance to get Fallen Angels. Is that right?
Yes. So we will have a pledge manager up for late pledges on GameFound as well. We were working on the finishing touches this morning, so I'm hoping to have that live probably by tomorrow. We'll have that up. So,
how much has changed from you find this print and play? Well, actually, I guess in this case, it wasn't really finding a print and play. You already had a relationship with John, right?
Yeah, we already had a relationship with John, and actually, I mean, the contest was going on. I think it was either right around the same time or maybe a little bit before we actually had the Black Sonata Kickstarter. And so we had already had, Black Sonata under contract, but we still ran the contest and, took everything, tried to keep it, even keel, made sure we were, fair and balanced. And it was an amazing design. And so it was our standout winner for sure. So it was nice to be able to work with him again. And he has a couple other games that he has that are out there that we are looking at, and we might try to work with him in the future too. So he's been fantastic to work with.
I didn't get a chance to check. How much has changed since the contest? Because it came with all the artwork already, right?
Yeah, it came with all the artwork. The only thing that changes during the contest, I think he had it only around 40 cards, and he actually found a way to, when he was doing his analysis and tinkering in the last year or so, he actually got it to where it was 54 cards and went from 4 players to 6 player supporting. So, but that's the only major change. So the rules are the same. The setup is a little different because you now have the option to go up to 6 players, but the mechanics are the same as they were during the contest.
Graphic design, all of that came ready to go, or did you have some input?
Yeah. He did all the graphic design and artwork on this one. Since he was using art assets from the classic the pictures he found, but he did all the graphic design set up for this one too. So,
is this something that can be tweaked and added and expanded?
We haven't really thought about it. When John put it together, he liked where it was at, and he kind of tightened it up, like I said, over the last, maybe year-ish, as we've been kind of thinking about, launching it in 20. And so he likes where it's at. I don't think we'll try to do anything as far as expansion. This is one of those ones where we like to be able to, we have we're starting a line of games, Orchard in this one, where it's a small box, where it's portable, it's cheap, and but still high-quality components.
It's a pocket game. It goes right in your pocket.
Exactly. Yep, yeah, it's perfect travel game, and one of those ones where you can, take it anywhere and have it, either at the end of the night, the beginning of the night, at lunch, things like that.
So you're a publisher though, and publishers like to tweak, they like to change, you like to twist. Do you just trust a guy like John Keane and trust all of the development that he's done? How do you do that as a publisher? Because if you're the first publisher that I've interviewed that has hands off on a game.
We really do. I mean, it all kind of depends on the game too. This one we were thinking like long and hard, like maybe we should have somebody come up with a solo variant, maybe have it like as a design contest, before or after during the Kickstarter to be able to come up with a solo variant we'd give people credit for. But, we thought long and hard about it, and we're like, you know what, we trust John. John has been amazing. He knows how to design a game, and he likes where it's at, so let's just keep it the way it is. But other games we have, we worked with Jake on Maquis and came up with a couple of new mission cards and kind of did some tweaks to the rules. When we worked a couple games we have coming up in the next later on this year, we've been working with a designer and actually doing a little bit more development than we have on the first few games. So we're stretching that part of our capability as a publisher. And I think in the next few titles we're going to have, I think it'll really shine and show like, wow, actually this game they just keep getting better. So that's what I'm hoping.
Would one of the benefits of being a publisher whose focus is on young designers, and I say young, not in terms of age, in terms of publishing, working with print and play type designers, is it the benefit of the fact that a lot of these people have a sense of community where here's my files, here's my rule book, test it out for yourself, people. Let me know what you think, and then tweak and do it. So is a lot of the development work for some of your early designs kind of done for you a little bit?
Oh yeah, like for Black Snot, I mean, if you go, there's a forum on Board Game Geek that has the work in progress threads where basically people will talk about the game they're designing and get feedback. I think Black Snot still may have one of the longest threads that I've ever seen on there, just because people were so interested so quickly on it and gave tons of feedback, and where it started to where it ended was wildly different, and it was because of that community. Because of the camaraderie of the designers on BGG and the print and play community, to be able to test it out, give feedback, and really help take it from a good game to just a gem. And it's a great community to work with, and we'll continue to support them. All of our print and play files from the beginning to the end, finished products, are all free out there for download and print and play, and that's the way we'll always be.
Steve wants to know, any chance that you're looking at some of the older games? Steve actually, the Name Father, actually dives into these things. He's looked at Borg in the Midwest and the Shooting Party. I haven't played either one of them. I'm sure you're familiar with them, right?
I am. So Blorg, actually, I believe, if I remember John correctly, Button Shy picked that one up and actually did it as part of one of their monthly subscription games.
Oh, okay.
That one's a cool, neat one. It reminds me a lot of the Far Side old comics.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's I think it's literally only 9 cards and that's it. And so I asked him about it, but he said Button Shy had that one. I looked at Shooting Party, and that's one that kind of caught my eye, and I need to talk to John about that. John did another one for the last solo contest. It's called Rest in Peace, The Asylum, and it's got some of the creepiest pictures that he's found, and it's like a haunted house types dice roller, kind of like not dungeon crawler, but like trying to escape the house, and it's got some of the deduction mechanics, I think, of from like Black Snot and Fallen Angels. So that one looks pretty cool. So we might have to talk to him about that one at some point.
Intrigued. But getting off subject of John's designs, looking at the list of games that you have entered in this year's contest, that Supreme Court one where you're trying to convince the 9 justices about the evidence. We've been playing a game on TTS because we can't get together live. That has that. It's called Lawyer Up. I'm pretty sure his name. Lawyer Up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic game. And I'm reading the description by this designer of the game that's in your contest, and it's like a miniature version of this where you're making your arguments, but you're worried about objections from the other side while you're arguing to the justices. It doesn't really feel like a Supreme Court argument, but I get where the designer is doing it. He's kind of melding a trial and the Supreme Court argument all at the same time. Very interesting thing. Have you actually got to play that one yet? Or can you talk about these yet?
Well, we can talk. Yeah, we can talk. We haven't played any of them yet. We in the previous contest, there's a few times where we played a couple games before the contest kind of got to that testing phase. But this time we were like, okay, let's back up because we have a bunch of other stuff going on too, and the timing obviously is a big impact as far as getting together. But we're like, okay, we'll hold off. We'll hit them all with fresh eyes after they've actually gotten some good feedback. Because that was one of the things that we noticed in the first couple contests is that a game may come in late, not get any feedback at all, and it's like, well, we're not doing that game a service. We're not doing that designer a service of actually like saying, okay, let's give them some good feedback so they can actually work on the game during the contest. And so that's what we're kind of hoping to do this time. And we usually always give, if people ask for it or even if they don't, we'll give them feedback on like what we thought of the game, ways to improve it, and in the hopes that they'll continue to improve and refine it. And maybe they come back in a different contest or come back in a different way and come back to us, and we can try to sign it from there.
Quick question from Thomas. He wants to know, how do most games come across your desk? Are you scouring the PNPs? Are you getting submissions, or are you mainly relying on the contest?
So when we first started, I was doing a lot of scouring to kind of like find some of the games, and so it's like like all the first 3 games we had, Black Snot, Maquis, and Orchard, were all print and plays where I went and approached the designers and like, hey, let's publish this. And then Fallen Angels, and we have another one that was in the contest, or 2 more in the contest from 2018 and 2019 that will be taken to publishing either probably early next year. And then, but we've also gotten a lot of submissions. So our next game that we're going to do in the summer is one that we got a submission on. We met at Origins last year, and it was like one of the first ones we played, and we're like, this game is pretty awesome, and it's going to be our biggest game so far. It'll actually have miniatures, custom meeples, bigger board, bigger box. Yeah, so that'll be our first kind of step up into like the larger game.
So that's not going to be side room games. That's going to be living room games or big room games or something.
Exactly. Yes, game room games.
Right. Because that doesn't sound like a side room.
Yeah.
And what's the name of that one?
That one's called Element of the Gods. Okay. The designer, Jay, he's been around the community for a long time. He actually was working the booth with Gil Hova for Formal Ferret Games, and he taught us networks while we were there.
Okay.
But this one's a really cool one. Yeah, this one's really cool.
His name?
It's Jay Bowles, I think is his last name, if I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
this one suggests ballroom games. If you're going to go with a big giant ballroom games, that'll work, right? Yeah.
Maybe not that big, but yeah, you never know. But yeah, so this one's really cool. It's basically, it's kind of a take on an area control game where you are manipulating as like gods in like the ancient times. You're manipulating your worshipers around the board in order to satisfy certain conditions and score victory points. And you're manipulating different elements, whether it's earth and birthing new worshipers, or you're using wind to move them around, or fire to scatter them. It's a really cool concept, and it's an interesting take on like area control and manipulation, where you're not actually moving your pieces, you're moving common pieces across the board, and you're trying to set up these patterns to be able to score. It's a really cool game, and so we've been heavily invested in getting really good art and developed on it, getting the 3D models for the miniatures that are going to be in it. So we're really excited about this one. This one's going to be big for us.
When do you expect it to hit Kickstarter?
We're still shooting for July. I think that should still be on schedule. I know it's kind of slowed down a little bit just because of the situation, but we're hoping to be able to start getting some of the review copies out. Hopefully by next month. We're getting a couple of the last pieces of the art done that we need for the actual prototypes. So
and that's Element of the Gods coming out from Sideroom Games, hopefully late this summer on Kickstarter.
Yep. Yes.
BJ from Morgan Go. I've got my guest here, Dustin from Sideroom Games. Hey, Dustin, this is a board game show, right? We got to play a board game. I got my buddy here, Steve, the name father, who's checking in.
Hey, how you doing?
Steve's going to help me out with a game. It's called the Envie game. Envie is just a good old Cajun word, Dustin, for what would you say in New York? A hankering? A jonesing?
Jonesing.
Jonesing,
Definitely
okay.
Jonesing.
So not hankering? No?
No, hankering's a little bit further south.
That's Missouri. That's where I'm from. I think we would have a hankering. So.
Oh, good. Okay, see, the hankering joke finally worked. It only took 101 episodes, Steve. So hankering. So we use the word envie. It's something we really want to do. So we're gonna play a little game with the chat crew. Apologize, it's not working tonight with the swamp gas going on outside. What Steve will keep an eye on the chat crew and make sure we have it. But we're gonna ask you 20 question style, and we're gonna try to get you to narrow down the game. So have you thought of a game that doesn't matter if it's one that you own, one that your friends own, one that's hard to get, or one that you have every day with the perfect partners and the perfect time and no distractions? That game that you have the envie to play.
It is my all-time favorite. Yes.
Oh wow. Okay, so you got the game in mind and you understand the rules, right?
Yep.
Well, let's play the envie game. All right, chat crew, whenever you're ready, start throwing out those questions. Now, I'm limited to about 20 questions. The chat crew is going to be firing because they want to beat me and Steve. They want to try to beat us. So, and I'll be honest, usually they do. So we'll see what happens. The first question I always start, and then I'll let Steve ask one, is it a competitive or a cooperative game? And I'm going to guess it's a competitive game.
It is competitive.
Yeah, I figured that. Based on our discussions tonight, it sounds like that you'd like it. All right. Steve,
Thomas has already jumped in with Gloomhaven.
Gloomhaven? No, I love Gloomhaven, but it is not Gloomhaven.
Ooh, Thomas, good.
Although
good
Gloomhaven it's cooperative. Yeah.
It is. That's right. So he probably posted. Remember, they're on a little bit of a delay with us, about 7 or 8 seconds. So he probably posted that right before. So, all right. So, Thomas has a quick question. Does it have miniatures? Good question, Thomas.
Mm.
I'm going to say no.
So I'm going to put no.
I would not call them miniatures.
Ooh, I think, Steve, that's a hint. All right, Name Father, you got a question?
Yeah, well, that makes me think and wonder if it might be affiliated with an IP of some sort.
Good question.
It is not.
Not IP based. All right.
Okay.
I got a question for you. American or European designer? Is it one of those, an American or European designer? As far as you know?
I don't know who the designer is, but I would say it is American.
Okay.
Like American trashy.
Okay.
That's a definite hit. But he doesn't know who the designer is. Okay, so not one of the big people.
Can't remember. Yeah.
One of the big people.
Play in under an hour or over an hour, would you say?
I'm going to guess over an hour, Name Father.
He's agonizing over this one. He's thinking.
I would say maybe just a little bit over an hour.
Just a little over.
It's been a while since I played it, so I'd probably have to play it again to remember. But
is it within the last 3 years? Is it Cult of the New type game?
No.
Not Cult of the New. All right, so chat crew, let's. Thomas has a good question. Player boards? Does it have individual player boards? So, sort of like a Coimbra or Orleans, one of those. Or Cthulhu Death May Die. Individual.
I would not call them individual player boards.
Okay. Patricia's got a question. Can you see it, Steve?
Let me pull it back up. Is it a deck builder?
No.
Not a deck builder, Patricia. Patricia, you won last week. This week you may not win. We'll see. Keep firing. You got one?
Cards, dice, or both?
Cards.
You're throwing me off on here. I was expecting a big mini fest with, dice and chunks. I know you started out with Settlers and a couple other games, right?
Yeah. Started off, I think my first kind of foray was Settlers, and then the Cities and Knights variant. Because if you don't play Cities and Knights, I'm not sure why you're playing.
I've never played Cities and Knights. I've never played it. No.
Cities and Knights makes it actually like worth playing now. I still think that game is great. My wife still loves that one. Like I would play that one right now if I could.
I played the base game 100 times, and we just never moved on. We moved to the 5 and 6 player expansion, and I call that voodoo because that is it's terrible. I don't know why anybody would play a 5 or 6 player version.
It's really slow. Like 4 is a good number, but yeah, when you have Cities and Knights, it brings in a whole new level of like strategy and tactics that make the game replayable, in my opinion.
Does it have a historical theme?
No.
Good question.
Nick
threw out Dominion, but I think you quashed Deck Builder.
Yeah, no.
So he said cards. It's
Yes.
Card based.
So to recap, you're saying not in the last 3 years. Over an hour to play.
Just over an hour.
Yeah.
Quote miniature.
No miniatures, he said.
No, but he was like, I wouldn't call them miniatures because there are pieces that are more than just pieces, it sounds like.
It sounds like standees.
Possibly.
Maybe. Oh, he's not really
Maybe not miniatures, something that might be smaller scale.
They have plastic pieces that are unique to the game, but I would not call them.
Oh, it's clearly Stratego then. It's clearly Stratego. No, it's not. Let's see.
I played Stratego once when I was a kid and got destroyed, and I had to play it.
I'm going to guess it's not a legacy game. The answer to that would be no. Not a legacy game. Doesn't sound.
Not an IP, and not a designer whose name we'd necessarily recognize. Perhaps.
I honestly have no idea who designed this game. It could be somebody famous, and I do not know.
Okay.
Patricia got a great question. Is it a tile laying game?
No.
Not a tile question. Okay. She's just in it for the street cred. Okay. And Thomas is, I'm not even going to ask if it's chess because it doesn't sound like chess at all. And remember, it's card based, not pieces based.
Card based. Would it have been an award winner we would have recognized?
Great question, name father.
I believe it has won awards.
All right, we're going to have to go back. If it's going back, is it Spiel?
I would assume so.
Okay.
Is it route building? Does it have route building in it?
It is not route building.
Oh, it's not Ticket to Ride. Okay, dang it.
It's not Ticket to Ride. I've never played Ticket to
That's
Ride.
actually been good for the not minis. That's actually not bad, BJ. That's good thinking.
That's what I was thinking. He said card based, and then he starts mentioning a thing. Not really a player
They're
board.
not really minis.
Yeah,
that's
not
good.
really minis.
Yeah.
Never played Ticket to Ride, huh?
Never have.
Ooh, still.
Nobody's owned it that we've in our gaming group, and just never have busted it out.
Still in my top 10. After all these years, I don't even know how. I honestly, because I track the BGG stats, but I started only like 2014 tracking stats, so I don't know what I did before that. I had no idea how many times I played Ticket to Ride. I honestly don't. Just one of my favorite games all the. You know why? Because it's so easy to. When I get family or friends that have never played a board game before, it's one of those games that I can just break out. That one and No Thanks have been the two games that I can break out the fastest with people. One to show what a board game is like that's not Monopoly, and one to show a card game that's not Blu-ray. You know, I can show them, or whatever you guys call it in Missouri. I don't know what y'all play, uke or something. What did y'all play in Missouri?
Actually, I grew up playing pitch, so 10-point pitch. Yeah, we used to play that. Me, my dad, my sister, and stepmom would play that to the wee hours in the morning.
We played Pit like that. We played a game called Pit, and we played it till 2 or 3 in the morning. Oh, let's see. Well, a lot of these.
I'm not seeing any other. Patricia asks about, is it set collection?
No, I wouldn't call it set collection, no.
Mick thinks it's Rise of Augustus, which has that, if I remember right, has that bingo element. Is that it?
It is not Rise of Augustus. I don't know if I've ever seen or heard of that one.
Okay. That is the one that's got the bingo app. It's got Ecos came out this year. I don't know if you've heard of Ecos from
I think I heard
John D. Clare. And he took that Rise of Augustus. If you've ever played Karuba, it's just picking stuff out of a bag or picking stuff, flipping something over, and then everybody has to deal with what that is. Bingo, basically. So it's taking the bingo mechanic in it's supposed to be a good game, but I haven't played it. Steve, your turn. You got anything?
I'm wondering if we should try and focus on mechanic, because he said there's card play, but
Yeah.
if there's any other additional
Is there money in the game?
mechanics. Good question.
No currency.
No currency at all.
Is it some kind of an engine builder?
Nope.
Wow, he is really stumping us. If it's the McDonald's Happy Meal game, I'm going to be mad. Because then I know he talked to Alex this morning.
No, but if he talked to Alex this morning, Alex has moved on to the Barbie game.
The Barbie game, I forgot.
From the from Happy Meal game.
See, and he admitted during the show he talked to Alex this morning, and Alex told him to come up with some weird game like that. Barbie game.
He did not, I promise. He was not trying to throw you guys a
he killed
you
us
guys a
because his game was the Happy Meal game, and none of us even heard of it. I think I don't know what it is. Would you say there's player conflict? So we're gonna directly move against each other type of thing?
Yes.
As much as would you call it a dudes on a map type of game?
No.
Not dudes on a map, but there is player interaction.
Yes.
You said Ameritrash. Maybe we should try and nail down the theme. Is it a fantasy theme?
Nope.
Wild West?
Nope.
No. Sci-fi.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we're cracking here. So get rid of it's not Chaos in the Old World or any of those. Ooh,
Is it kind of
could be Eclipse, but you can't play Eclipse in an hour. No, it's not Eclipse.
It's not Eclipse. I just got my Kickstarter version. I'm very excited to bust that out at some point.
So it's not
In an
BSG
hour.
or Eclipse or any of those because you can't play those in an hour. Well, you could play Dark Moon in an hour, but Dark Moon would be.
And it wouldn't be sandboxy like Firefly or Zaya.
No, because again, you can't play those in an hour. Though.
No, not that's what I'm thinking. Not that.
And he said it's not IP based, so it's not going to be in that Star Wars, Outer Rim,
Star
or
Trek,
Rebellion, or Star Trek, or any of those things.
Yeah.
Firefly.
Okay.
He said not IP based. So, oh, he's really stumping me here. Okay, so you know what?
Let me peek back in
when
the
we
chat.
win this game, we always do this. We think about what the clues are. The clues are it's probably an Ameritrashy design. It's got science fiction elements with cards, and it's a player interaction. But the minis, are not that. Is it Cosmic Encounter? No way.
Yes.
Oh my God!
It is.
Yes. I got it, Jack. My son Jack's clapping for me because he loves that game. Hey, this is how we win because we start just thinking, what are the clues and what game sounds like that? Cosmic Encounter. Hey, I love Cosmic Encounter, and you're a fan?
It's so good. My buddies stopped playing it for a while with me because I would win every time. Because any wheeling and dealing negotiation game, they hate playing with me because I constantly am like hosing people over, just wheeling, and all of a sudden, they're like, "How did Dustin win?" I'm like, "I don't know, weird."
People think there's luck in there, and there is a little bit, right? People think there's ganging up, or the player powers are too strong. Well, Bradley constantly says, "Oh, the game is broken." It's like that's the point. It's broken.
Point.
What can you do, Steve? If you pull certain alien races, going in, everybody's gunning for you. What are you going to do about it? You have that incredible power.
How do you react?
How do you react to the fact that you have an incredible power? Yes, Jack is he's twisting the screwdriver on me because he loves using those special powers to just knock us out. So
it's you.
Great.
Always had that little win.
My favorite story, I think, in board gaming that I've ever had was we were at a conference, and my buddy Mike, who's part of the company, he brought it, and we were playing like 5 or 6 people. One was like my boss, a lady who I've known forever, and she's been a good mentor. And she loves board games, and so we were playing, and it was down to me and her both had 4 planets, and I had like 1 card in my hand, and she had like 1 card in her hand, or maybe a couple. She might have had a couple, and I was like, "Hey, why don't we negotiate? We'll both win, because I'll negotiate, you negotiate, and we'll be good." And she's like, "Okay." She puts down her negotiate card, and I put down my 0 attack card, that the only thing I had in my hand. And she looks at me like I shot her dog. She was just devastated. And she's like, "I will never play games with you again."
It's called the turn. You became the heel. Oh my God, you just twisted it.
Her jaw dropped. Mike, he just started dying laughing. It was perfect. It was just one of my favorite memories playing games at any point. It was amazing.
Well, that was the Game Time Envy. Dustin picked Cosmic Encounter. Game Time presented by Game Toppers LLC. Make your game nights a showstopper, Dustin, when you play on a Game Topper, right? Our friend over there, Berkey, on there, check those out. And that's the Envy game. All right, board gamers, that's it for another episode of Gumbo Live. Steve, you got any more questions for Dustin about any of the Kickstarters?
No, he nailed them. Other than, are you signing John to an exclusive? That was
Not yet. He had another design of his get published. I can't remember what it was. It was like part of the children's design contest, and somebody picked it up and published like a family game. And I have to go back and look at it. So we don't have him exclusive yet, but we are usually his first choice, I think, from now on. So we'll see how it goes.
Keep them coming.
Yeah, for sure.
We've been impressed. That's it for another episode of Gumbo Live. Hey, Dustin, tell people how can they reach you if they want to talk to you about Sideroom Games or any of the projects that you have going on.
Sure, yeah. So we're on Twitter at Sideroom Games. We're on Facebook, Sideroom Games, Instagram as well. And you can go to our website, sideroomgames.com. We have our shop set up. We have a couple things out of stock right now just because it's been so successful. But we're looking at reprints for, Black Sonata is going to happen. Maquis is going to happen sometime this summer. And then we still have copies of Orchard. We're actually working through an inventory issue, but we should have some of those here pretty soon as well. So yeah, that's the best way to reach us.
And you got a couple of cool projects coming out. I saw Pirates versus Pirates, the winner from 2018.
From 2019, so last year. Yep, it's a card game where basically each card is your pirate ship, and you're doing battle, almost like using them as minis, but you're moving the cards around the table with powers and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Pirates versus Pirates. When are you expecting that to hit Kickstarter?
That one's it needs some development time. We're working on that one probably spring of next year. And then the other one we haven't talked about is Mechanical Beast, which is the one I'm super excited about as well for this, probably coming in the fall-winter time frame.
That's the short version of that name, though.
Yes, yeah. Into the belly and back out again or something like that. Yeah. But that one is really cool. It's a tile-laying game where you are diving into a mechanical beast and exploring rooms and finding survivors, and then you have to turn the beast off and escape, and as you are escaping, the tiles are removed and the beast is slowly collapsing around you, and you're scrambling to get your way back to the exit.
I hate to tell you, I am so tired of those mechanical beasts diving in looking for survivor themes. I mean, it's like a million games out there, right, Steve?
You've seen one.
You've seen one, you played one. No, that is a really, in all honesty, joking aside, that's a really unique theme.
Yeah, and that one's going to be really cool because we're actually going to work with the manufacturer to have the tiles be magnetic so that when you pick them up, you will have a mechanical or a magnetic apparatus that will allow you to pick up the tiles and rotate them, so it makes it a lot easier to actually play the game. Because that was one of the most frustrating things. And I can't get the middle tile out of this big gigantic spread out so I can move things around. And with the magnetic, we saw a guy actually on Facebook build one of his own, and I contacted him. I'm like, hey, we need to get this. And so we cut a deal with him, and so it's going to be really cool.
Yeah, so that's two good games I want to take a look at: Pirates versus Pirates, and that Mechanical Beast. Although, has somebody already taken Belly the Beast as a game name? Is that why it's not there?
That is the only Mechanical Beast on Board Game Geek that I can find. So I'm hoping it's at least moderately unique. We'll see.
It is moderately unique. All right, so make sure to like our Facebook page, facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo, and our YouTube channel. It helps us get the word out about all of our upcoming guests and shows, including next week's show. Matthew Aslan, the designer of The Ratcatcher, is coming in, a game that for some reason Bradley and Carlos have been talking about for weeks. Can't wait to talk to him about that one. I'm BJ from Board Game Gumbo, and until next time, Dustin and Steve, laissez le bon temps rouler.
See ya.